All right, a 49ers weekend roundup coming your way. A couple of more practices in the books from Santa Clara, so there's a lot to get to from over the weekend, from a Jimmy Garoppolo update as far as whether or not he's going to get traded, as well as the latest on Trey Lance, Brandon Aiyuk, Danny Gray, and everything going down throughout training camp up to this point. Before we do get started, though, not going to be doing a live show until Tuesday, so I want you to get the comment section going. Where are you watching from, and what was the best part of your weekend? Want to chop it up with the faithful? We'll be live on Tuesday, YouTube, Rumble, as well as Callin, but until then, definitely want to hear about how all your weekends went. How did the weekend go for the San Francisco 49ers? Let's talk about it. And we begin with Trey Lance. So there are people who will focus on the negatives with how Trey Lance practiced this weekend. A pick six on Saturday to Jimmie Ward that went the other way to the house. A bad pick and poorest performance on Sunday, that interception to Fred Warner. And it was an ill-advised pick. There's no doubt about it. Bad decisions. They can cost you games. They can turn the score. They can flip the momentum. That's important. What's also important, how does a quarterback respond to those down and out moments, especially late in games, when it matters the most, when you need a big play or a long scoring drive? That's what I want to focus on here with Trey Lance, because he was able to respond on Saturday after the bad pick to Jimmie Ward. 8-play, 65-yard drive, and about a minute 15, minute 20 that finished with a 15-yard scoring toss to Ray-Ray McCloud, where kind of rolled out of the pocket, through backfield, found McCloud at the final buzzer. Couple plays along the way on that drive to George Kittle, and that Brandon Aiyuk connection continues to be special throughout camp, which is important for this football team. Now, I'm not going to compare Trey Lance to any greats out there, but that's what greats do, is respond to those down moments, and then when it matters the most, in crunch time, in the guts of the game, you throw together a long scoring drive to put your team on top, and the offense beat the defense on Saturday afternoon. And Lance has this skill set, as well as the makeup, that gives him the potential to be elite in those moments. And that's what's exciting about what he can do, because he does have special ability. Now, the inexperience, as we continue to talk about, is the cause for concern. He had been practicing up and down, then this past week looked to turn a corner. Rough patch yesterday, finished with some clutch plays today. 4 of 12, interception to the aforementioned Fred Warner. Started okay, 3 of 3, ended 1 of 11. Back toward his own goal line in the shadows of the goalpost, almost threw an interception to Charvarius Ward. But keep in mind that the defense that he's going up against is special, and that's something that fans should be really, really excited about. They should also be excited about Trey Lance, because there are going to be moments where his inexperience rears its ugly head. There are also going to be big splash wow plays that can make this 49ers offense really, really exciting. And then once he's able to iron out those inconsistencies, he can become a very solid player. Before we continue to keep it moving on the show, your excitement level for Lance is where? 1 to 100, let me know in the comments. Upcoming practice schedule before we get to Garoppolo, because the practice schedule has a timeline. So does this Jimmy Garoppolo situation. Monday off day, Tuesday practice, Wednesday practice, Thursday walkthrough, Friday preseason opener at Levi Stadium against the Green Bay Packers, type FGB, because the Niners own Green Bay. Why do I have a smile on my face right now? Because up to this point, all things good on the injury front throughout the toughest part of training camp for San Francisco. They've escaped kind of the dog days of summer without any significant injuries. That's a good sign. Let's hope that continues. As for the other timeline that we're looking at, and injury news, Jimmy Garoppolo. Ian Rappaport with this on Sunday said that Garoppolo still needs to build up some stamina in his arm to get fully cleared. Progressing well as that continues. 49ers continue to say that they plan to trade him. No clear trade partner in the NFL currently. As we know, these things can change in a blink. If an injury happens, subpar quarterback play, especially for a team that's ready to win right now outside of San Francisco. And Rappaport also said 49ers waiting to play this out until cut day, when the Niners have to trim their roster to 53 players. When is that? August 30th. So right now, as of this recording, August 7th. So 23 days, 3 weeks until the 49ers will be forced into a situation where they have to cut Jimmy Garoppolo if they can't find a trade partner. And if there is no team out there that trades for Garoppolo up to that point, it just doesn't make sense for Garoppolo to be on this team unless Trey Lance completely shits the bed, because his contract becomes fully guaranteed. So from a financial standpoint, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's the timeline you have to be wary of for Jimmy Garoppolo. I also thought this was interesting on the Garoppolo trade rumors front from Tim Kawakami of The Athletic. He made this Browns-Niners trade proposal. Conditional trade gives both teams the chance to maximize the value based on what happens next with Deshaun Watson and Garoppolo's health. Word is Garoppolo does look pretty good. Been zipping some fastballs, can't be a full participant until he can go through an actual practice session. Rappaport did say that's a couple of weeks away. But Kawakami, 49ers and Browns could simply construct the trade based on how many games Garoppolo plays this season, which benefits both sides, which of course is tied to how long Deshaun Watson is suspended. It could be something like this. If Garoppolo starts 8 or more games for the Browns this year, 49ers get the Browns' 2023 third-round pick. If Garoppolo starts 12 or more games and Cleveland makes the playoffs, that slides up to a second-rounder. If Jimmy G starts 1 to 8 games, factoring in the possibility to simply beat out by Brissett, the pick slides down to a fifth-rounder. If Garoppolo starts 0 games, the Niners get nothing. I'd never really thought about a Garoppolo trade in that way with so many different factors to it and conditions, but it would make sense for Cleveland. Like San Francisco isn't forced to make a decision until August 30th, the Browns also have some time until we find out what the NFL appeal on the Deshaun Watson legal matter comes out to be. So a conditional trade like that, given Garoppolo's base salary and the Browns' desperation level, if Watson gets suspended for a long time, right now, Sue Robinson, she had come out with 6 games. NFL decided to appeal. It will obviously try to be longer than that from the NFL's perspective, but a conditional trade like that does help out both sides, depending on games played, performance level, and then for San Francisco, draft compensation, which is important because they're looking to get some value back for a guy who's won 71% of his starts and is a pretty solid quarterback, about middle tier in the NFL. What do you think is going to happen with Garoppolo? T for trade, C for cut. We continue to ask you, but up to this point, both are still on the table. Couple more thoughts. Brandon Aiyuk, pretty cool story emerging here because last year he was in the doghouse, and that was a big topic of conversation on the 49ers report. He's gone from doghouse for Kyle Shanahan to breakout star and the top dog because of Deebo Samuel not really being acclimated with this offense now, and then previously to him signing that contract, he wasn't even on the practice field. So the go-to guy has been Brandon Aiyuk, and he's been unstoppable. One-on-ones against Charvarius Ward, one-on-ones against Jimmie Ward toward the goal line. He's basically been winning every single matchup, and Lance has had that great connection with the guy who he worked out with and lived with in Southern California throughout the summer. That's why those things are important, by the way. Last year, though, Shanahan gave really tough criticism and tough treatment to Brandon Aiyuk because he realized he could be the player that we've seen so far in training camp. There's a difference between Brandon Aiyuk and there's a difference between a guy like Dante Pettis. Brandon Aiyuk used that slander from Kyle Shanahan and the criticism because Shanahan thought that he could be a really good player and turned on the gears. And last year, ended the season in spectacular fashion. Last 7 games, he actually had less catches, more yards, and more touchdowns than CD Lamb. I actually think it's a pretty good prop bet. Who has more receiving yards this year, Aiyuk or CD Lamb? And Aiyuk, in his first 2 years, more than 700 yards rookie year, 800 yards second year. Guys can be content with those numbers. Guys can sit back and be cool with that. Brandon Aiyuk has taken the criticism from Kyle Shanahan, and he's turned it into motivation and fuel to become an even better player than a guy in his first 2 years had 1,500 yards receiving, which is really good numbers considering there were no practices pretty much and no preseason games and very little preparation in 2020, his rookie year, because of that COVID year. Then last year, first 5 to 8 weeks, he had done nothing. And then he really became a go-to weapon. And so far throughout training camp, he's been that weapon. And going back to what I said, there's a difference between a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, who rises up, uses it as motivation to become better, and Dante Pettis, who completely folded. he got the same treatment from Kyle Shanahan. He couldn't face the noise. That's why he was cut midway through 2020. Aiyuk has rose up from it. Now, Danny Gray, on the receiving end right now of that Kyle Shanahan criticism, because Shanahan played wide receiver at college. It's a position that he cares about. In today's pass-happy NFL with spread concepts, it's an extremely important position. That's why the wide receiver market exploded to historic levels this past offseason because of the value for wide receivers. And Kyle Shanahan, when he sees guys who have special ability, you can be content with being good, but you can put in the work to be great. And that's the motivation and the push from Shanahan. And it looks as though that's benefited Brandon Aiyuk. Dante Pettis couldn't handle it, and that's why he's an NFL journeyman right now. And Danny Gray is getting it right now. And can he use it to become a better player? He's had flashes in camp of splash plays, but also on the other end, rookie inconsistencies. Want to end up with this and round out with this. And it's real quick. Jimmie Ward telling NFL Network, we know about this rivalry between San Francisco and the Rams. Kyle Shanahan had owned Sean McVay for a long time, and then after Shanahan won, 7 straight against McVay, the wonder child, McVay got him back in the NFC Championship game after the 49ers led going into the fourth quarter 17-7. Jimmie Ward, as NFL Network was on hand for Niners practices this weekend, said that he tried to shake hands with Rams players after both Niners wins over the Rams last year, but they walked off the field, quote, when you finally win a game, you won't shake our hands? All right, I got something for you. I love it from Jimmie Ward, one of the captains of this team, a guy who's gone from first-round pick and potential bust to one of the best safeties in the NFL, and that dog mentality is something that I like. And I'm sure Jimmie Ward would get on this train of typing FLA in the comment section, so do that right now to back up Jimmie Ward and to show the NFC West that it is San Francisco's division and not the Los Angeles Rams. A team that, do they have any fan base? All right, we're out of here. Thanks for watching the 49ers Report. Content coming up your way all throughout the week. Look forward to it. Can't wait for it. We'll talk to you next time.